We begin here at home with energy issues, as the Rural Electrification Agency, that's REA, has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Budget Office of the Federation, Infrastructure Corporation of Nigeria, and the Ministry of Finance Incorporated to mark the official launch of the National Public Sector Solarization Initiative, that's NPSSI. A statement in Abuja by the agency at the weekend described the 100 billion naira initiative as a flagship government-led program designed to accelerate the deployment of distributed solar energy solutions across Nigeria's public sector institutions, and these include schools, hospitals, security posts, government offices, among others. Managing Director and Chief Executive of the REA, Abba Aliyu, noted that the NPSSI was part of a broader strategy to position Nigeria as a renewable energy hub of Africa, while promoting innovation, local manufacturing, and sustainability in energy infrastructure financing in Nigeria. Also speaking at the event, Director General of the Budget Office of the Federation, Dr. Tanimu Yakubu, emphasized the significance of the initiative in addressing Nigeria's long-standing energy gap and strengthening the fiscal efficiency of public sector operations. Now we take a look at politics, as the hope of an end to the protracted conflict ravaging the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has further dimmed, as a section of the party is supporting former President Goodluck Jonathan to emerge the party's presidential candidate for the 2027 elections, while another group is rooting for former Anambra Governor Peter Obi to return to the party. Reliable sources within the party revealed that the governor of Bauchi State, Bala Mohammed, is spearheading the move for Jonathan to emerge the party's candidate. The feeling in Mohammed's camp and a section of the north is that Jonathan can only contest for one term and the rotation would swing back to the region. While the PDP had recently agreed to zone the presidency to the south, and according to reports, though, the former president has not publicly made any declaration, and those close to him say he has not asked that the pressure on him by some forces to contest be stopped. Well, while the likes of Governor Mohammed are pushing for Jonathan's candidature, other influential members of the party are favorably disposed to Obi returning to the party. Recently, Professor Jerry Gana declared that Obi has a greater chance of winning in a presidential election than any other contestant. And finally, to some positive economic news. The Nigerian Export Promotion Council said the country exported non-oil products valued at $3.22 billion in the first half of 2025, representing a 19.59% increase compared to $2.69 billion recorded in the same period in 2024. The Executive Director, Chief Executive Officer of NEPC, Nonye Ayeni, in a statement by the organization yesterday, stated that the volume also increased to 4.04 million metric tons compared to 3.83 million metric tons for the same period last year. She attributed the growth to several factors, including a significant increase in global demand for Nigerian products, wider market access, and tariff relief provided under the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. Ayeni stressed that in the first half of 2025, Nigeria exported 236 different products, representing an increase of 16.83% from the 202 products recorded in the same period of 2024. She said the products range from agricultural commodities, extractive industries, and manufactured as well as semi-processed products. Now, this is positive news. Of course, we're always advocating for the diversification, especially of our exports.
Yes, it's good news, diversification of our export, which is a good one. Our non-oil export rising up to 19.5%, which is a good one. But the question is, what's the value of the export? What's the value add of the exports? Because it's not today that we've been having some numbers in non-oil exports. The Agora threshold, when we had the Agora threshold, what goods did we export? Most of the goods we exported through Agora, crude oil was piped into those goods. So it's still pretty much about the unfinished goods that we export. What's the value? Because the taste of the pudding is in the eating. We can celebrate non-oil exports, but if we're exporting our unrefined, unprocessed cash crops, then it's not viable in the long run for us. So the next part is we should see how we can add to manufacturing. There was a report that came out the other day that said that manufacturing lost well over $1 trillion in the last 4 years before President Tinubu, but things are getting better now. So how can we ensure that we have more finished products that are being manufactured and piped out? So I feel we should be cautious with the celebration of the headlines. That non-oil export rose by 19.5%. Good one. Also because, yes, we gain an advantage because our currency has been devalued. So our goods are cheaper, obviously. But our goods being cheaper, then the next set is, are we adding value to these goods and services? I think that's the paramount question here. And for me, the federal government saying they're spending extensively on solar panels, which is a good source of alternative power, so that we can power our hospitals and the likes. Only a couple of months ago, we saw the protests because there was no electricity supply in University College Teaching Hospital in Ibadan. But for me, the question is, what are we doing to improve, one, our grid power? Because solar, too, can also be added, or renewable can also be added to our grid power. As we speak today, what quota is renewable taking in our grid power? Because apart from providing this alternative solar means, the longer dream will be how we can increase this capacity on our grid power. I would have rather loved a scenario where we have solar, it also takes a portion on our grid power, rather than this independent arrangement that RA is doing. Because for development to come, it will have to be what gets out on our grid power to the end consumer, which is low. In the last 40 years, I'm not sure we've passed over 7,000 megawatts in our grid power. Despite the Siemens deal and other deals that they say is already in process now, we've not seen the added advantage. Based on an initial roadmap, by now the Siemens deal should have been completed. And that should have added close to 20,000 in distribution and other capacity to our grid power. We've not seen that. So for a country of over 200 million people, having this kind of challenge is a sad one. So yes, we can spend on solar for nucleated places, public facilities, public schools, hundreds of billions. Then what happens to what we need to revamp, which is main investment in our grid power? Now the government, through the laws, have nucleated that to state. It's on concurrent lists. What is happening? Most of the nations that we want to be like grow through what is put on the grid power. As regards politics, it's only rife for things like this to happen. Some have said, yes, Jonathan can come in to the PDP. They've even made the argument for it. Sule Lamido was speaking the other day, said Jonathan can come in. Yes, he has 4 years. It could be a better option. Because the talk about one term, a lot of people posit that the reason why they not reneged against Jonathan was because Jonathan had touted that he was going to do a term. Because anyway, when you look at the argument back then, it was seen that it was the term of the North Jonathan used because Yar'Adua passed after he won the 2007 elections. And then he went ahead for a second term and things didn't pan out. It was a sentiment that was easy to be sold in the North, and with the fact that the coalesced forces with the APC in the South here, they got over the threshold, the 12 million vote plus over 3 million or thereabouts, and he got over 50 million votes. But now, a lot of people have said, oh, because Jonathan agreed, he didn't cause chaos, he called to congratulate Buhari, he's a good man, let us put him in the fray of things. Dear Mr. Jonathan, isn't it shocking that all of a sudden, people that said you were not good enough close to 10 years ago are saying you are the best thing now? Isn't it shocking that they want to turn you into a commodity for their own interests. And that's the shocking parameter a lot of people fail to realize. So all of a sudden, some people are pushing the kite that you are good enough. But when they needed the power off you, you were not good enough. These same people that are saying you are good enough today were those that engineered the opinion of the nation against you. Dr. Abati here can tell us the story because he spent a lot of time defending you. But he also saw the betrayal by the so-called people that claimed that they loved you then. It's all politics. For me, what saddens me is that since this political argument started among all the candidates, and today I want to berate all the candidates that are saying they want to be president, we have not heard any one of them say, let's debate on how we are going to solve the great problem of power. We are not hearing them debate about approach to solving the problem of education. We are not hearing them debate about the best approach to healthcare. All we hear them talk about is, this one is from the north, he has 4 years to go, it's from the south, and all of that. Question is, when are the issues going to be the front burner?
Okay, first, on the question of the so-called split in the PDP between President Jonathan and Mr. Peter Obi being invited by some stakeholders in the PDP to join the PDP. Well, the issues are as follows. One, the point about President Goodluck Jonathan is still very much at the level of speculation and academics. President Goodluck Jonathan himself has not come out frontally to say that he's seeking accommodation either in the PDP or in the coalition or the ADC. Now, we will need clarity on that because he himself must come out publicly to say this is where I stand. However, as a former president, like all existing living former presidents of Nigeria, it is natural that you'll be interested in the process. However, what is the issue? The issue is that we are being told that he's been pressured, either from the APC or from the PDP or from the ADC or from whatever other political parties to take an interest in the 2027 election. Now, until we hear from him, I assume that everything else is speculative and academic. Having been involved in the political development of Nigeria to the level to which he has been involved, we will expect that he will come out and say, well, this is where I stand in this matter. And then people can have clarity. Otherwise, every other thing is just academic and speculative. That's my first point. The second point, let's interrogate the details. Now, if President President Jonathan suddenly decides to join the PDP, which PDP is he going to join? The same PDP that is in ICU, the same PDP that is in the vice grip of Nyesom Wike, or the same PDP where they are also winning Mr. Peter Obi. Mr. Peter Obi is on record as having said previously that if President Jonathan, who is his benefactor, is running for the presidency of Nigeria, he will not. He will concede to his former boss and political godfather. So there are strands to it. The other major strand to it is that since President Jonathan left power, he has gained in terms of prominence, acceptance, popularity, even regret on the part of the people who once opposed him. Internationally, he's a major international figure in Nigeria today. If you are looking at former presidents of Nigeria who have projected this country internationally, you will talk about Baba Obasanjo and you will talk about President Goodluck Jonathan. Is he going to throw himself into, these murky waters of Nigerian politics and lose all of that reputation as a global statesman. So there are many sides to it. That's why I say all of us should just be patient and wait for President Jonathan to now say, well, I'm not just part of this process, I am involved. At that level, all the analysts, can, move from speculation to basic analysis. Now, what is the other subject about non-oil export? Doing a lot, 16.3 or million dollars or whatever. Okay, no, 19.5% in terms of improvement, $3.22 billion. Now, the whole issue is about diversification. The madam that is in charge of the Nigerian Export Promotion Commission, Nonye Ayene, says that a lot is being done in this regard and that a lot of achievement has been made in terms of capacity building, in terms of quality of products, in terms of standards, and that there is a rise, more significantly, in value-added exports. I think that's something to be applauded. I think it's enheartening news because we have always talked in this country about diversifying the economy, about making sure that other sectors of the economy do better in terms of contribution to GDP. And here we have Mrs. Nonye Ayene saying that half year 2024, half year 2025, half year if you do a comparison, that Nigeria is doing better. Yes, we like to hear that information. But the issue here is about sustainability. How do we sustain it? What are the structures in place to make sure that Nigerian exports meet international standards? These are the basic issues. Before now, we dealt with all of that about the standards at the ports and all that. So it's ensuring that those standards, the quality that is internationally agreeable, are maintained. In monocultural economy, the experience in Nigeria is that it is counterproductive because it has not really helped us. Finally, the issue about solar power. You recall that before now, I think the other week or the week before it, the Minister of Education, the Minister in charge of Energy, they were talking about energizing both the education sector and the health sector. And the focus, when the Federal Executive Committee voted money, was about solar energy, diversifying energy, and focusing first on education, security posts, and the health system. Yeah, it sounds good. It sounds very good because we cannot have an education system where, students don't have access to electricity. I've attended universities before in this same country, and I'm not making it up, where when NEPA or PHCN takes light, the professor will tell us to put on our touch lights on our phones, and that's what will light up the room. And the professor will carry on. Some of these professors, they say 2-hour lecture, they will take 4 hours. So we will put on our phones, and the lecture will continue. So this is that kind of situation. It's unacceptable in an educational institution. It's even worse in a medical institution. We have been told that UCH will be prioritized among other tertiary health facilities. So when they say, okay, we're going to do solar energy in all of this, and 100 billion has been devoted, it sounds very nice. But can they sustain it? Again, the issue is about sustainability and the outcomes. How measurable will the outcomes be? Because hospitals should not be in darkness. University rooms should not be in darkness. In fact, nobody should be in darkness in this country. After all, these same leaders travel all the time to Europe, where they enjoy regular electricity, and yet they can live with a situation in Nigeria where you and I are placed in very difficult circumstances in terms of energy supply.
Absolutely. I think our move towards energy security, as much as it's debated and we still have our challenges, it's positive to see some intervention coming by way of renewable energy. Some might say it's a little bit too little, too late, but others will welcome the development nevertheless if it's going to provide some succor, especially in this case to public institutions. Now, we know that about 61% of Nigerians have access to electricity. And the conversation that we continue to have, really, with regards to where we're going with trying to decongest the grid and create mini grids and so forth, is how affordable will it be? So when we speak of renewable energy, it becomes a more plausible and more feasible alternative because it allows for affordability. Now, this is a great initiative, and they said the initial stage of it, which will be funded by 100 billion straight from government coffers, but they said that the subsequent expansion will be funded through private capital and other non-government budget, non-budget finance tools. So this is an interesting mix. It's the first time this particular mix is being rolled out, especially with the renewable energy sector. And I think it'll be good to see how this can be done so it can be scaled and so that even at the state level, it can be replicated. Now, the conversations around renewable energy, especially solar power themselves, in the past few months have been quite controversial. If you recall, there had been reports that Nigeria had imported close to 200 billion nairas worth of solar panels into the country, and so they were mooting the idea of possibly banning the import of solar panels. I believe that has been shelved by now because people cried out and said, well, this is our only succor, especially small businesses, people in homes and so forth. Many people have moved off the grid, and we haven't developed the capacity to be able to rely fully on local manufacturing. So that's my first question, is where are we with the local manufacturing? Just because the ban is not going to be enforced, it does not mean that we need to slow down. We need to slow the momentum on what we hoped could be an initiative that will push us towards producing locally. There's a number of factories and a number of manufacturers who have expressed interest, some of whom have already started. I believe there's a place here in Lagos, in Ikotun, that have also started creating solar panels, but we're talking about scale and mass manufacturing. And something like that, I think, needs to be supported by policy and needs to be supported by a certain capital, whether it be from Bank of Industry or so forth. These are the places where we need to be funneling some of this funding. Now, the other issue that comes up is the issue of e-waste. Now, we know that solar panels themselves have a lifespan of 20 to 25 years. When you look at the battery side of things, batteries have a lifespan of maybe 3 to 5 years. So these things get disposed. Now, we passed some law around this in 2014, under which we have the EPR being the environmental protection that governs how we dispose of our electric products. However, this is not being enforced. So this is also a problem that is budding if we are not careful. What are we doing with these solar panels? What are we doing with the batteries? We know that batteries contain lithium, and if we're not disposing of that properly, that's a very serious environmental hazard. So in all of this, this is an exciting development. But again, when we're looking at the ecosystem, it's important for us to have a holistic approach and not just move in one direction full steam without considering what will happen down the line and how this industry will be supported. It would have been fantastic to see this 100 billion contract being awarded to a Nigerian company. But the question is there any Nigerian company that has this capacity at the moment? So most likely, unfortunately, we'll have to import. But again, I think this is a fantastic opportunity for us to see how we can support the local manufacturing and production for renewable energy. Then very quickly to the case of increase in non-oil exports, which is fantastic news because this is what we're talking about. We're talking about diversifying this economy. We've seen the unsustainability of a monoproduct economy. And yes, it has been a slow process, but we're starting to see that slowly but surely some rewards are being reaped here and there. One interesting interesting story that I also stumbled across in today's This Day newspaper, which speaks to the same theme, is the fact that in Niger State they've unveiled a 30,000 metric ton per year shea processing plant. Now, Nigeria, according to the CEO of Nexum, Nigeria accounts for about 60% of the world's global shea nut production. So if we're able to add value, and this is really where the conversation is if we're able to get ourselves to a point where we're able to export something that has value addition to it, then sincerely we'll be able to see a greater diversification in where we are able to attract our foreign currency from. Ironically, though, there's also a report today that some of our crude oil is being sold to India, that India has boosted their trade with us with regards to crude oil. And this was an interesting detail because you find that Dangote is still importing his crude from the US. So again, even in our management of that resource called crude oil that we have, we're still seeing that we're yet to reach a balance where we can see value addition being done locally as opposed to us continuing to export all of these raw products to our international trade partners.